Jibugin Joji Meto Kam Rirablinji Nyende Gemba Ade Sangye Jindu Mete Waye Drage Nama Daijin La Cheba Ajoy Jitsun La Ma Tamba Kina Ke Chege Kala Yenze Tiantine Jana Zambe Dejeze Mala Savaye Jige Charaba Havado Edam Kurorana Mendalakan Dayame Jadan Sogi Janala Janju Badu Tani Kyasuji Dagi Jini Gibi Sonangi Dola Penji Sangi Druparasho Jadan Sogi Janamla Janju Badu Tani Kyasuji Dagi Jini Gibi Sonangi Dola Penji Sangi Druparasho Jadan Sogi Janamla Janju Badu Tani Kyasuji Dagi Jini Gibi Sonangi Dola Penji Sangi Druparasho 네, 빵봉이 좋된. 디디 조사래. 지단데 예대바시 균두된. 리무식이 잡이나라. 둔주든 나기 겸식 배지. 그래. 둔주든 라우 둔주든 나기 캡시텔라 아니다 디도아 연장 톰나 정바이 아마르 데데 이리바시 데도 조기래라 가전데 둔주든 나데시 이리바시 윤두테너라 조기래라 나오 나래 No. So we're on the fifth section, which is called the criteria of having trained the mind or of having achieved mastery in the lojong or mind training.
이디 버시 공부 잘해야 된다. 이디 버시 힘들게 해야 된다. 로레 버창 스타로좀 잠발을 때네. 스타로좀 잠발을 때네. 아니 진짜다 세노로 표준 소바라 소바. 게 상부이네. 다시 안 오픈 좀 소발로 소발 게 상부제 다 다다 나자다 치와라 수비 갱인바 지중양 로종기 람드 캐르베스 아니 초냠베 르딩 제티 갱이 지중양 제가 메가베 미제바 마세 대다기 그대면 다들이 다들 로중이 냠내 제베는 아니 게 상부지 중에 양디 냠내를 케시네 다른 주인의 게 상부지 중인데 아니 야 배 로디 나게라 소바다 양 디데기 로디 다 킹베 온도 도네 나게라 소바도 손도 제네 강에 제봐 뒤에 내버체 다 나자라 소바 근데 주무스네야 들로 좀 도스케니 아니 강에 내버체 근데 지네야 다 디데지 이디 버시 그도 데스지다 나로 좀 왜냐면 야부치 제베는 상부치 제네 아니 그래서 그래 남도 계신게야 아니 냠바치 주네 나자다 콩도 자다 근데 제수네야 남도 계 두고야래 아니 인사 아니 그나 콩도 걔네 콩도 남도 계 차바를 친구지 걔네디 남도 계시 두고야래 뒤투에서는 그 토마 콩도 걔네 양남사디 남도 걔네 아니 그 gyumed 콩도 gyumed 온도 마다마체 남사 아니 남도 기기야래 기에서는다 아니 디바시 gyumed 댄스야 딩구야래 어디 인상다 이제 데리 로중
the specifically here in this fifth section, the explanation of the fifth of the 7 points, we've got to the third one where it says always cultivate mental happiness. What this means is that through the force of your having trained in the Lojong, having practiced the mind training, mind purification, whether you find yourself surrounded by very good conditions, wealth and wealth, health, and so forth, or whether you have to face enemies, you're ill, in pain, even dying, you're able to bring that into your path, use it for your path, literally to carry it into your path. So what would normally happen when we have good conditions is we feel very proud of ourselves, we become very arrogant, and that causes all sorts of problems for us. And so instead, because of your mind training, you're able to use those conditions, and so you don't that counteracts the pride and the arrogance and so on. When you're ill, when you're in pain, you know how to bring that into the path, so then you don't experience problems. Either way, good conditions, bad conditions, you know how to bring them into the path. And so so for example, when anger arises, you're able to bring that into your path. Attachment arises, you're able to bring that into your path, and through that the anger won't keep going. The attachment, the continuity of it will be broken off, because immediately when they arise, then you bring them into the path, and through that you will always be able to maintain a happy mind. It's like it says in the Guru Puja. There's one verse in the you have this section which is all to do with the stages of the path. So there's one. There are several verses dedicated to the mind training, and there's one there which says "Donasang nawa chishayang." So it says in brief, whatever appears, whether it's something good or something bad. So that verse is also talking about this. It's the same idea. Whatever happens, whether nice things are happening, you can bring them into. You use them for your mind training practice. Whether bad things are happening, you use them for your mind training practice. For example, you can whatever happens, you can use the taking and giving tonglen. So when things are going well for you, then instead of being proud about it, arrogant, you motivated by love, you meditate on, you imagine giving your happiness, the happiness you're experiencing to others. When bad things are happening to you, like for example, your like arrogance, pride arises in your mind. You can practice tonglen, taking, giving. Then also, you instead of feeling discouraged that this mind has arisen within you, you imagine taking the suffering of others, taking the arrogance and the negative minds of others. And so, what this means is that whatever happens, whether it's something good or whether it's something bad, either way it encourages you to practice Dharma. So because one important point here is that when things go badly, then it's quite easy to remember mind training, because you feel like you need something to deal with this. It's when things are going well for us that, you know, when you're in very happy, very pleasant circumstances, that there's the most danger, because that's when we tend to forget all about Dharma practice and just, you know, enjoy ourselves. No. Then the next one says, you've mastered it. In other words, you've mastered the mind training. If you're capable, even while you're distracted. So the analogy for this is of an accomplished horse rider, and a really good horse rider, even when they're distracted, if something happens which would normally, you know, like somebody who's not really accomplished, they would just fall off the horse, you know, like the horse stumbles or something, then even though the rider is distracted, they won't fall off the horse. They'll be able to keep going. So what this means is somebody who's really a really good horse rider, even though they're distracted, it would be quite unusual for them to fall off the horse. Generally, they can just keep going. So just like that, if we have to face an enemy, or if we suddenly meet with an enemy, even though we haven't been particularly thinking about mind training, if we're able to avoid some kind of like a negative mind, destructive mind arising, and we're able to find we're able to do that quite easily, then that's a sign that we've been that we've met with success in our mind training practice, or in other words, like it says at the heading here, the criteria of having trained the mind, which means really having mastered the mind training. That's a sign of having mastered the mind training.
다들 정배 세디다 장 뒤를 깨베 정이지 장세네 네 정매 메고바 많이 배 다디다 중내 장 배대 로종 다디리 다디 단대디기 된대지 지기 상부인의 정으로 로중부터 내하고 캐투 네버지 중에 로중부터 내하고 캐투지 중내양 대담기 안티고 유리케베 데리 스타리 대담기 아니 로중디 샤규야 말이 제브리 로중디니 대담기 초가지는 민진바니 로중 장국으로 제버다 종세네 신 어디래 종세네 다 종미구바 마이베 다선디다 종내경 대상디다 종내경 종그레디 주시주베 멤버와 케벌 샤나 메미중 매일바 라리야 다도 추바 멤버와 신은 어디 로조디 장내디 나라도 다디리 중수네 야더니 로조디 냠내디 괜춘이 저거래시 괜춘이 맞잖아 그 아니 주신 수발에 주신 주세는 신이 다르네 신 다르다는 멤버로 지도된바 저 차부지 레주던 같더니 샤바이나 네 저도 예지고야 봐. 아니 수신 수니베 차부지래네 맨만 바빠도 뒤지고야 봐. 맨만 바빠도 아니 뒤지고야. 디산 차부지 전에 다맨 바도 두선 샤샤바이나 아니 나 슈마 뭐네야 뒤지고야 봐. 이선에 맨만 바빠도 배 인적이 주신이 주디 다리아디 말려버지 제고래 있어요. 뒷단시 로중기 세팅의 질레소네 양 로중기 다 사람을 예뻐도 로중기 제고야 봐. 아니 멤버 마바바도 제고야 봐. 멤버에 상계는 아니 다 로중기 제부터 그걸 봐. 어디 예산에 로중 장배 체지 중순에 이네 다 로중 장차리 상가전에 여기야 말이 무튼이 장이 로중이 내적으로
So through our practice, through our persevering in this practice, then even if we reach that point where we find it easy to practice, whether we're in good conditions or whether we're facing bad conditions, that's not enough. It means that we've achieved signs of success in the mind training practice, but that's not enough. What I mean is that having got to the point where you have these signs, you shouldn't just leave it like that. You have to keep going. Otherwise, it's just like when you're rubbing two pieces of wood together to start a fire. So you keep rubbing, and it gets quite hot, and then it's almost igniting. It's just about to burst into flames, and you can see that. Then you just put it down. You just put the wood down. So then the heat's going to go, and you don't get your fire. You have to keep going. You have to keep rubbing till it actually bursts into flames. So what this means is that actually with the mind training, you need to keep going until you achieve enlightenment. So like enlightenment is like the fire that you have to, that you're aiming for, just like with rubbing the two sticks together. You can't stop until the fire actually starts burning.
베나시두가 대조르니까 로조에 체디 대조 전지기 나 대조를 그때는 인구랜도 로바디레스 다 오늘 대조르니가라 얼로 장배 체디 근데 대조는 대조를 그때는 인구랜도 로바디 레멘도 로네 인구 대조 그때는 인구랜도 로 개버들라 니 그래서 그래 대조 그래서 대조 된지 얘가 로 장배 체들이 있죠. 근데 돈이 공부 장배 체들이 그래 대발인지 먹는줄 로바들이 돈이 공부로 다 체지 근데 시에서는 대진문도 주로한테 팔로서나 대지랑 줄을 매개버 채소나 매개버 제가 참기 대지 아니 가르수 그래 대지게 바자 뻥기에 말이야. 제가 돈이 공부하디 정배체디 가르서 그래서는 돈이 대지문주한 로바디 중수나 대지문도 주로한테 가수나 아니 돈이 공부하게 세트 중거리 디니야다네 대딩문주로 고바리디 단다 시디빌라소가도 수반 투야 말이 대딩문주 고바디 사게바이나 지네 대딩문주와 모두 좋아한 매버리 단도디 동반이를 공부에 가르쳐서는 시리그 빵구르가 시제디가 빵구르가 사게버르 토가네 대중문주와 가기 야르티네 딩디게 바자세야 말바 바자세야 말이 저자 바자세베치도 돈이 공부야 다 딩디도 가기 야르바 어디리디 딩디 돈이 공부 중대 체 연발은 인들와 로바오 어디 두다디 대조니가 대조 tunji sambe lodi jumbe che karere se 대조 그때는 인부 레멘도 별로 없으나 인부 렌도 별로 좀 말했지만 좀 많이 붙이겠으나 대조니가 대조 tunji 얘가 로 장배 체들이 나 돈이 공대 돈이 또 별로라 로 정배 체들 가르스네 대진도 돈을 좋아 로스나 아니 돈이 공대로 될 장배 체들이 지레스 다지 로종 장배 체들이마 연구도가 네니
Like, for example, in the case of our practice of our meditation on the leisures and endowments being being difficult to achieve, and also being so valuable when you do achieve them. So, in the case of that kind of practice, that kind of meditation, the sign of having achieved mastery, or if you want to use the word in this text, I think is a little bit weak really, saying trained the mind, having trained the mind. It really means having achieved some kind of level of mastery, we can see from the explanation so far. So having achieved mastery in that meditation, the sign of it would be that any kind of like not wishing to take the essence out of this life has stopped. So in other words, you no longer have the mind that's not really interested in taking the essence, doing something really valuable with this life. So then likewise in the emptiness meditation, the sign of having achieved mastery in it is that you no longer have manifest grasping at true existence. So it's not simply a question of the true grasping mind not being produced. That's not enough. The sign of mastery in your meditation on emptiness is that the manifest forms of the manifest forms of grasping at true existence have ceased. So they've ceased. This happens around the 8th ground when we talk about the 10 bhumis or the 10 grounds of the higher levels of the bodhisattva path. So it's around the 8th ground. So even when you have achieved mastery in emptiness, which you can tell you have if you've reached that point where you've actually stopped the manifest grasping at true existence, you wouldn't want to stop there, because that doesn't mean to say that you've abandoned all of the imprints of the true grasping. So you'd have to keep going until you've abandoned the imprints of true grasping. So then it talks about actually it's not in this, or is it? Let's have a look. So so there's actually another. So within this section, because there are different versions of the root text, so somehow this doesn't mention another criterion, another way that you can tell that you've achieved mastery, which is so it means, so it's so having the five signs. So it talks about the 5 signs of having achieved mastery, or having trained in the mind training. So anyway, the first one is called the Sembachembo, so the great heroic being, or the great sattva, Mahasattva, Sembachembo. So what this means is that when you have, it means when you have reached the sort of like the proficiency in your mind training to the point where whatever kind of suffering arises, whatever happens that you don't want, you're able to keep going with your meditation on the 2 bodhicittas. So here the 2 bodhicittas refers to the conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. No. ngabati kagirete gejo chembo dane dadi gejo chembo diwala da duwa zimba katu chembo samba chembo se de rota lare da tene duwa zimba se de ne je chamu chunjela
Neba Niene Nidu Chamijan Magubar Duazimba Chimbo Shions Dadi Lede River Lede Chango Chujela Yang Neba Niene Silva Nidu Chamijan Magubati Duazimbas Dadi Lede Chamo Lede Neba Yapuni Sunani Neba Nidum Tingu Mevere Karasana Lede Le Kiwa Channel Jebu Tewata Le Migawa Channel Jebu Tume Tile Neba Yapuchi Suna and Nidum Chamija Maguba Chinguyare Marandula Lede Neba Yaputu Mani Bayasan Nidum Yati Nebata Tine Tibata Duanda Subati Yati Lede Neba Yapuchi Mani Bayasan Tibale Juliarva Tibata Duanda Gubati Guyari. Lede Neba Yapuchi Yasana Tidum Manguba Junguyari. Did it that Duanzimbas here?
No. So that's the great sattva, or the great heroic being. So then we have the great holder of the Vinaya, holder of the discipline, if you like. So this is the second one. What this means is, due to having gained certainty about even the subtle points of karma and its results, you're not, let's say, marred by even the slightest wrongdoing or downfall. So at the moment we don't, because of not having reached that kind of certainty, so again and again we create this kind of karma. We get these kinds of, do these kinds of negative actions and, downfalls, breaking the vows and so forth. Whereas if you have a good understanding about karma, even the more subtle ones, then you won't even be, you won't even create those more subtle faults and downfalls. So then, if that's if that's characterizes your way of practicing, then that means that you're a great holder of the discipline, or a great holder of the Vinaya. Then we have the next one, the third one, is the great, let's say, the great the great ascetic, Gatup Chambo. So what this means is that whatever suffering arises, then you embrace it, you welcome it. So it's just like it says in the the first verse in the mind training of the mind training verses in the Guru Puja. So there it says. Anyway, like when the whole world and the environment is filled with the results of the bad actions, negative actions, so that problems and suffering and difficulties are just like a rainfall. Like just so many, to be able to. To be able to see, to be able to like welcome that by thinking, oh, through this, I'm using up my my negative karma. So you welcome it. So it's exactly the same as when we talk about the three types of patience. The first of which is the patience of welcoming or embracing suffering. So that's what this is talking about. And in that case, if you're able to do that, then you've got this third sign, which is being the great ascetic practitioner.
Lara Delaya Lendi Nebat Machabati, Shejan Larami, she said, to Sotum Chess, Natansune Party, Lema of Chess, Shejan Larmi said, Jishusune Lara Metibas, Ani Troya Larmetroas. 아니 지금 가지고 컨트롤군이라는 페이지 라라야 초내양 란 팔라르메 좋아 상주야 라른 상메투스 랑기 견상을 제로 견상디 주스네 상주세야디 랑기 견디 시에스네 견주 제스네 야 라르 쿨을 파규지 지야티 매 마제르지가 동네 제니까 바티라 상주야 라르 상메 좋았을 개중의 취시시기야 어디가 디차는 개중 침부시기야
No. Then we have the third one, fourth one, which is the great practitioner of virtue. So this is related to the four practices of the four virtuous practices. What this means is, if somebody tells you off and says bad things to you, then not retaliating by having a go at them, saying bad things to them in response. Then the second one, even if somebody somebody hits you, not retaliating by hitting them back. Then if somebody gets angry with you, not getting angry back with them. And then even if somebody criticizes you, points out your faults, then not retaliating by pointing out their faults. So if you're able to practice these four, then you're the great practitioner of virtue. No, Shidros. Semba Chembo, Duazemba Chembo, Kadu Chembo, Gejo Chembo. Ding Napa. Nejo Chembo Tatare.
담배추 어디리 첨부 개중 첨부 다 담배추 너무 Rangula Joro, Nejuru Chambos, Tambechu, Nelma, Rangula Joro, Nejo Chambos, Jor, Nejuru Seatida, Nejo Seati, Nejo Seati, Chida, Shila Sumpila, Yamne Chinitula, Nejo Vasgiari. Tatandeti, Tambechu, Nelma Rangula Jorbala, Nejo Vas. Tati lojong bitseti yabaji jungsuna ani tambechu nelmati ngune tambechu ngune di ta lodi ya lojong dirba tambechu nelmati garere simba ta lojong diri shenda ge tambechu ji che jene ya lo manduna ani tambechu nelma juya marba pa ta tu zamba Comrade Patadu Zamba Churabchi, Patadu Zamba Chubarabchi, Pugubarabchi, Nea Nagilo di Manduna Raji Dita, Didegi Chitu Sunday, any Gazure Chunema di Juyamari, Patadu Chuchi Rivers of Chiraba. Nema the Jumata, Lojung the Abachungsuna, the Ranju Loti, Yapach Jangsuna, and the Chunema the Sea Parita, Monet, Ni Kopigiata, Nangi, Unibuti, Tumbarich, wherever. Nangi Jumandubijet, Chujovi, Jamabuchayarva. To Java in the Chunema Trigimevari, or the days. Tatile Chunema Tirangula Kesona, and it is your chimbo, Nejoba Chimbo.
The fifth one is the great yogi or the great yogic practitioner. What this means is when you're so anyway you have to look at the Tibetan word, Tibetan word Nenjor. So the first part of that Nelma, so that's talking about the actual, in this case, in the case of mind training, the actual Holy Dharma, the real Holy Dharma. Then Joa means like to apply. So when you apply the Holy Dharma, the real Holy Dharma, to your own mind, then you're the great yogic practitioner. So it is true that usually, or in other contexts, when we talk about yoga, which means applying one's mind to the sort of like to reality, reality. It does refer to the combined practice of calm abiding and special insight. But here, the point that's being made is that you're applying the real Holy Dharma to your mind. The real Holy Dharma is the mind training, the lojong. So again, what I mean is, it could be that from outside, it looks like what you're doing is practicing Dharma. You're meditating. You're seen to meditate. You can be seen teaching, making offerings. But even if you're doing all that on the external level, but inside, your mind is not subdued. Your mind is full of self-cherishing and so forth. Then you haven't got the true, the real Holy Dharma. So when you have been able to subdue your mind in that way, when you have applied the mind training to your own mind, within yourself, then you're the great yogic practitioner. No,
lemba pi sunjati dedale midawa sedu ta damji gi ketu samaya and benda satu samaya sigiba sama benda satu samaya sedu damji sigere tati damji siati kare sene sunjati le midawati rang sun kuyagi sunjati le midawati la ni damji sigere ti chene damji to tomba chibare chire yang damji da tomba kaga chiya chiya ti ni damji sidu chamba che kuya di dhub kuya di ni dhubale medawa di dhub kuya di dhubati la damji sigere suishindu dhubati dhub kuya di suishindu dhubati la damji sigere ani pang kuya di ni pong chebati tombasi di lunga di nyeju lunga di nyeju ko ondo masuwa lunga di nyeju le tombati la tombasi tati tombasi ati chen miri pati meche pati tombasi damji sayati je kuyati ani de medawa je kuyati jebale medawa serva kuyati ta damji to tumba sayati kaga chene tiri ta de tande ti chene rangi nyamsulang nyamsulen bala di karati che di nyamsulen bapu sunjati dale mendewa situ sunjati dale sene tate sunjati le niga yare dhukuyagi chikche dhukuyagi matuna nya sunjati chikriba nya panguyagi mabana sunjati le gyavariba ti chene ta tanditi damji siyati nala nigan dhukuyari damji to tumba chaba meba chi sunya chiyari damji ta tumba kaga chi shiyari wati che damji to tumba kaga che na dhukuyati chushindu dhukwa sila tila damji siyari panguyati chushindu pangwa tila tumba siyari watati
Now we move on to the next section, the next point, the 6 of the 7 points of the mind training, this particular mind training. So it's called the commitments of mind training, or the Samaya. So, well, it mentions in the commentary that we have this word damsig, which is usually translated as either commitments or Samaya pledges, or simply pledges. Anyway, the Sanskrit word is Samaya, and so the meaning of Samaya is not transgressing that which needs to be guarded against. That doesn't quite work, does it? So anyway, so Sungwaya. So what you're supposed to guard against, you don't transgress that. You don't go outside of that. So in other words, guarding what you should guard, guarding against what you should guard against. That's more the point. So Samaya means guarding against what you're supposed to guard against. So avoiding. Well, anyway, so when you understand Samaya in that way, there's not really that. It really means the same as we have the word Jampa. So sometimes this is translated as like ordination or vows or restraint, ethical restraint. There are these different ways of translating it. So from that point of view, the Samaya and ethical restraint or vows, they would be the same. If you want to make a distinction between the two, then the Samaya means doing what you're supposed to do. So there are certain things, like for example in the mind training, there are certain things you're supposed to do. So doing them is keeping your Samaya. So in other words, Samaya is posited from the point of view of doing what you're supposed to do. And then there are certain things you're supposed to reject, to avoid, or to abandon. So abandoning what you're meant to abandon, from that point of view, you posit the ethical restraint. So you can make a distinction between we often have these two coming together, the Samaya and vows, or the Samaya and the ethical restraint. So if you want to make a distinction between the two, the Samaya means doing what you're supposed to do, practicing what you're supposed to practice. The ethical restraint is from the point of view of avoiding what you're meant to avoid. So when we talk about, in other words, there are certain things which one should not do, and there are certain things that one should do. So they're posited from that point of view. And when when we talk about guarding then, or protecting, it means that whatever you're supposed to do, you do that, instead of and if you were not to do it, then you wouldn't be guarding that those Samaya. And then there are certain things that you are meant to abandon. So when you abandon that, then you're guarding your ethical restraints. If you transgress, then you're not keeping your ethical restraints. So now there you can see there's this whole list, and I don't know if anybody counted, but what it says in the commentary is that some people say there are 16 of these commitments, or Samaya, but this is incorrect. Actually there are 18. How this works is, you can see it says on the first line, always keep to the 3 general points. If those are counted as 1, then you get 16. Actually, they should be counted as 3 separate, points in this list, numbers in the list. So, and in that way you get 18. And I don't know if anybody counted, but I think there might even be 17 in our list. But we'll see. Oh.
Hello, Juma in Sene. Labja Chamu Yenje care to Suba Bandis. Samba Lojung Dembe Kwane. Gini Gizu Chanson Doji Tibe Bar Raran the Kan Kelamba Labja Chamu Chunje Sumatis. Lojung Kena the Megavas Yatika Lojung Yeti King of China and Jano in it, then Janju Semba in it, Karine Rahandi Kena Jerba Rahandi Gini in the killing, Gini Panjit Kena Jerba and Jano in the Janumbi Kenam Lapji Jerba Janju Semba in the Janju with Jansim with Tombe Lapji Jerba. What then? But Sangaba in a Sangavi Lapji Jerba. What the Canan the Medeva said, Harangi, Tombati, Cups, Tombalembe Cups, Cake, Lamba in it. Didn't make go to said the Lojum Canan the Medeva. Chitan is here. Chitan is selected. And Gini in the Lapji Jerba. And Jamo in the Chia, you sent the Tombalini in the Chia, Natum Lini in the Chiarva, Aran the Kana Chiarva, didn't make a Seati. Talo Jum cannot make a Seati.
So, with this first one, then it says always keep to the 3 general points. So these are general points. They're general points. The first one is the Lojong Kelamara. So one is the I can't think of a better word for the moment. Like Kelang. So the acceptances of mind training. I'm sure that's not the right word, but anyway, you'll see what it means. What this is referring to is the fact that, for example, you might be we have, with the different ethical restraints that we take, or vows, ordinations we take, then we have certain precepts that you're supposed to follow. Like, for example, with the Genyin or Shamanara level, there are certain when you receive that ethical restraint, there are certain things that you've accepted that you're going to do. And so you should practice accordingly, according to this first point of the 3 general points in the commitments, or the Samaya, the mind training. You should be keeping those precepts, following those precepts. Likewise, if you have the full ordination, then you have certain precepts you're meant to follow. So you should follow those. You shouldn't transgress those. Likewise with the Bodhisattva practice, you have the Bodhisattva vows. So there are precepts involved there too. Should keep those. And likewise with the tantric ethical restraint.
Cannot guess yet. So that Dumbala Pena, Jabina, Kelambatan guess yet. When a Runchu Devatan, Chavli Humble Runchu said, when a Jinsi Jaju Jituga. Zelia Chuta Jirum Chusaji Diviata, ya, Ji Kasha Jiguer of the Ka Chusha Dankoyat in the Yerba. That the Kachusha Dankoyat, Zegi Jesu, Kachusha Dankoyat in the Yerba. That in there said, Dusu. Carlier finger is Nang Sem Duna 아니 디그리 시제네 디제 제베이나 캐나다 가도리 캐나야디 소다 좀 캐는 버바 이네 디 이제 뭐 캐나야로 다 두스만 주다 두스다 게 되게 대장기 이게 전부 그 말이 샘디 야부지 주는 디그리 시제네 아니 두스파 쳇스베이나 로주 캐나다 개와시에 ene sodaga tombara bichi chebena runchu deba chavlin hamdu ni ji ya chobanan du hamdu goya
한국
한국 goya yerba tu la deta maje bar yeba minjung sheba ka chu she 취시에 집행 나기 셈드는 디 초세 저도 브루스 다디리 같이 시다네 게임을이세 아니 예버게 말이세 아니 나기 셈디야 디기야리세 다디 그 수다고 좀 버켜는 버려 일단 예도야 근데 로중 예디기 랑기 캐나는 게 돈받던 게 해주기야. 랑기 캐나는 게 돈받던 망가가지고 그게. 제가 로중 위에 시제니 간주면 주제기나 랑기 셈디야부 주주는 디그리 신다도 고 말이 시제니 제가 담아도 계수 제비나 아니 디 로중 캐나다 대와 아시아 딩 그래서
if we look at this in the context of the Pratimoksha vows, the vows of individual liberation, so we have the lay precepts and the monastic precepts. So it would mean, it would mean that there are certain things that you have accepted to do. And so one should not transgress that. One shouldn't do the opposite. Like, for example, when you're offering the homa or the fire puja, there are certain things that you're supposed to do as a monastic. Not just directly burning the substances and so forth. And then there are certain occasions when you're meant to rinse the mouth, and there are certain occasions where you should take off your shoes. And if you think to yourself, well, those are just the very small things. The main thing is that you need to train your mind. Those things don't matter very much, and so you're sort of like a little bit kind of like looking down on them. You just you're not careful about those things. You don't really think they're important. You think the main thing is training your mind. So this is a mistake. One should not think to oneself, oh, the main thing is training my mind. Those small precepts and rules and so on, they don't matter.
Ningula soba topdure ngale susu lojung yijinbe lojung ajin bibeche da ngale jinji meba di shengi shena ane ngale ningula soba tinde yunguri samne ani di jinji meba de tenya ge chedo ani shin lune sa ge shingrap tinde di phache ya sata yusege sara bidini sata ko jini ale jidi mesa nu maris dondo che ta shin dindele ani shin dindele ji so janne de bat lu ne bat ni yungur ba o to su che bat sanye da shinye da chunye da no dinde ko ba di 다그 삼루 가래지 말 진지 매버 인사 아니 강기 장류 말이 진지 매부터 시에서는 아니 그 나는 인구용 그리 상 아니 진지 매부터 시야기 치도 사단에 되니 사두스고 룬에 되니 힘도 수제 근데 제베이나 아니 그 가르치는 랑 진지 매부터 대야기 치도 라는 진지 매부터 대야기 치도 다그 진지 디야를 받다고 라는 예체 가르치는 인구 제약 제나 삼바르바 니구 제약때 진지 로그 지게르바 진지 예때 연말 따뜻한 간제 로그 라는 진지를지 로중한 예사 라는 진지를지 매야디 현다기 시에는 나는 인구 진인구리 상 아니 그 눈에서기 힘드세 제 사단에서기 사베 지야르바 사단에서기 사두스고 제베이나 뜻이 진이 지야르바 그 나를 진지 매버데 이 연거상 진지 매버데 때는 그 나는 인구용구리에서 이제라 다시 그 진지 매버데 때 되면 그 진지 야르바 가르에서는 그 인구 되서나 어떻게 있어 진지 야리 다 진지 야리 디 디레스 제베 있는 달로 중기 진지 매버 시에버 되네 다 그런 거 그런 진지 매버 지상lui 거기 있지라 봐
근데 싱다우치 륜네스데 싱다우치 고소나 때때닝알데 란치진 요마레스 칼친선 그래
진지에
너
어레 진지 매는 란치지 매나 루네스기 싱드고니야 never 제투 매버리 루그 never 제투 매버리 란치지 매나 다들 그 매던도 제 코트나 진지 야로고
나래
진지 야레 가르스는 그 인구 되서나
너
대예사디 아니 그 딘데스랑 인구 되게 체도 인구야 그래 체도 아니 그 진지 매던도 제 내 산이다 신이 제거디 제수나 로조 터져 수송하래 통부 제거리고 진지 매네야 매던도 제거로 진지 그로조 체르야 말해 네 로조 터져 수송하래
no. Then the second of these three general points is something like, not to sort of make out that you're a high-level practitioner, something along those lines. What it means is, so what you want is for others to make offerings to you and honor you. So how you're going to do that is, as a mind training practitioner, you want to make them think that you have no self-cherishing mind. And how you're going to do that is, so for example, if there's a tree with all sorts of inhabitants in it, like for example nagas and so on, certain non-human beings, then if you have no self-cherishing mind, then they can't harm you. So if you were to cut that tree down, generally speaking, they might harm you, but because you have no self-cherishing mind, they can't harm you. So what you do is you cut the tree down so that the people will think, oh, he must have no, or she must have no self-cherishing mind, because otherwise, there's no way that they would do that, because they know that they're going to get harmed. But they must know that because they have no self-cherishing mind, nobody can harm them. So that's why they can do that. And like also digging up earth, which is where there is a spirit that considers itself to be the owner of that place. You dig up the earth. Well, normally, if you just go ahead and dig up the earth like that, then these spirits would harm you. But so you just go ahead and dig up that earth so that people think, oh, this person obviously is free of self-cherishing mind and knows that they're not going to be harmed. That's why they're doing this. No.
로종 초래 만누 다 밀어 너버스 한들에 너버 마셔봐 인연기 너버스 잘라 너버 마셔봐 디네 중간에 녀버다 녀버 잠바 잘라다 신이 뒤주다 어다다디 다티 로ቹ 초레 쇼스니 안데 잘라디 베나 서버를 지제네 잘라 녀의 서버 검투제 잘라 서버 검 맞나 네 서버티 초레 침벌바 로추 초레 침베 디 아니 녀라 참라 잘라다 녀라 참바를 지제 잘라다를 지제스는 참바티 초레 침벌바 로좀 초레 침벌 다 로좀 초레스지 야 메라 로좀 로좀투 아니 제라 한딜 좀 맞추고 제비나 로좀 초레 침벌이 그 로좀디 메라 서바군투 제라 서바군 맞으면 로좀 초레 침벌바 야 녀라 서바군투 잘라 서바군 맞으면 야 로좀 초레 침벌 로좀 초레 마셔디 로좀의 책 많은 거래.
Then the third general point is not to be biased or partial in your practice of mind training. Like, for example, you're quite willing to be patient with your friends, to practice patience with your friends, but you're not prepared to be patient with your enemies. You have love towards your friends and relatives and so on, but you really dislike your enemies. You're quite willing to practice mind training with human beings, but as far as like spirits and devas are concerned, you don't practice the mind training. So in this case, what you're doing is you're practicing a biased kind of patience and a biased kind of love, biased mind training. So this third one is saying you shouldn't be biased in your practice.
타도 가르스우레 단 듬버 줄라스디 치 군주디 랑그 로 치드다 틈버지 저고야 로조 진행 인슬랍제니 랑그 로다 미틈버체 시부지 인도체 제비나 아니 그 로조디 가르스레 로다 미틈버버때 듬버지 줄거리 라진디 있는 라진디 파주르 셰진디 지제버 송구리 이내야 나베 로주 진이지 순돈도 제니 로 추든데 미친바제 나시부 인돈도 제 난로주 지난도 간베버리 로주와 마리스 난로주와 인스제니 슈다 팀베 로드스다 미팀베 제스나 아니 디지기에 매버 듬바 줄라 랑소샤스 저는 랑소시 로 아니 추dim바 데다 지바제네 저거래 그 친구지 제 나도가 이제 친구이네 아니 저는 디 남기미 로드스다 팀베 지제고 이 마제베제 Nalu Juma is J, Chanti Maburi, Dundur J, Crayam Burtu Dumber Chigdena, and Tidigam Dumbacula. Jonum the answer shall Luna, which over the answer shall raise. Dumbati Gurguris. Or that the Nangolo is Dumbati Gurguris. Jena Rajindi, Rajindi, Punish, the Jiguris, Shanti. Jonum the answer shall raise. Namju draw Garita, draw Chudu Yarba, draw Chudu the 아니 얘도 tumbajen 저놈 얘도 tumbajen 우리 이간에 볼때 되니 소수지 십지 인도도 지기 때문에 이 지지가 말이죠. tumba줄라랑 소셜.
So then those were the first three. Now we go on to the fourth one, which is change your aspirations. Actually that's one. So that's why it's 16. We've got 16, not 17. So, yeah, the text next two lines refer to one. Change your aspirations, but preserve your old manner. Anyway, so change your aspiration and otherwise leave things as they are. What it means is change your inner aspiration, but leave your leave your behavior, external behavior, the same. What this means is, anyway, whatever you call it, anyway, what it means is outwardly one ought to act in a way that is in harmony with your companions. In harmony with them. Otherwise, sort of trying to make out you're kind of better than them. You're a mind training practitioner. You guys, you have your recitations you do, but I'm a mind training practitioner. This is wrong. The point is not to change your way of behaving. Your way of behaving needs to conform with your companions, the people around you. Not trying to sort of like stand out above them. Live in harmony with people in a way that harmonizes with people, and inside, the emphasis is on the internal change. So what does need to change is you need to change from the self-cherishing mind to cherishing others. And in terms of the external comportment or conduct, then that should be such that it conforms with and is in harmony with with your companions. No. I think we can stop there, and I can take questions.
I think in the West, for a lot of us, especially in modern times, when we hear about spirits or nagas or these types of things that we can't see, especially in this empirical world.
In this what world?
Empirical, modern times, we're told. I mean, in older times, even in the West, we had these kind of concepts, but now it's, considered superstitious, paranoia, sign of mental illness, and so forth. And so we kind of either ignore that part or don't believe in it. And when we hear somebody talking about it, we think, oh, they're crazy. There's something wrong with it. Which, because if you can't see it, then does it really exist? That type of thing. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, I personally believe that there are spirits, but I don't know how much is my own mind, how much is my delusions, my paranoia, how much is actually happening, and so who actually is able to tell what's a spirit, what's an interfere, what's one's own mind. I think when we hear these things in these teachings, a lot of people think, oh, that's just like some cultural thing, it's an Indian like myth or something like that, or kind of put it aside. But for somebody who's trying to make sense of it, how do we really...
How do you know if it's a spirit or not, or just your own mind, right?
Yeah, sure. And who's capable of really making that discernment?
The doors do not jidan the ladegi then ludan to the kiji jungswa. That the doors do not the penelet around the nervachi jungsona. The nervaching in the la drawchi, de drawchi ina, ludawchi ina. That's also the rangi that namdo ki ina kandasaku gres. Kasne tinsang the shit at the killing midwa mancha. The lades, de chick don de chick res labsona. I meet it is nyomba ingres. Get it minyombe de get it up with the shigitos, the some that is the kind of the doors do not the yimba kandas haku gres. Rangi singi the serving namdo double res. Yan that the ngoni the donde double lu double yimba kandas haku gres. Su haku gres.
That is Mushi in Hagurva, Mushi in Haguri. Ku Lucy Giarva, Lucy Yari, Tiniku, Lunes, then never channel, Narando Ness and never channel, Narando Panava Chigurva, and to go some Madurva, Narando Kambato Suna, Narando Yukichi, never Pachigurva. You could Ness again. To never chess and TV never chigriva. That is Chini Chigi 128 in the Yari. Chitan mid Pevale 128 in the Yari. Couldn't mix in the Chigi. G. Serva, the 20 in the Yari. Yeah, and when she need to Tungriva.
토마토 begin to zuki. The tomato begin to zuki, mushi making the zuki, the don't double chi, do double chi in mean candice haku grella.
Oh, that is Moja.
Moja. Okay. Well, the thing is, like for example, Nagas, they do exist. So if you have clairvoyance, you would be able to see them, and so these Nagas, their minds are unsubdued. So if you harm the place where they're living, they're going to get you. They're going to do what they can to, they want to get their own back on you. Just exactly the same way that we, because our minds are unsubdued, somebody damages our house or our possessions or whatever, then we want to fight people, don't we? We want to do that. So they're just the same. And actually there are also human beings who can, not everybody maybe, but there are certain human beings that can see these devas, nagas and so on. But then I just I was asking Rinpoche, yeah, but what about when somebody can't see them? Then how do you know if it's a spirit or not? And Rinpoche says you have to do a mo. You have to do it. Ask a lama to do a divination. Then you'll know. No. No. Oh, Marin.
Pandelama Mopijune did it to the short. And he shot delay. Deep
no. But how double jiggy and it in young chenny.
Oh,
And it go trupsona.
Nima delay. Pandelamicone.
No.
Shot to delay.
No.
And it didn't shot the Jumne Tar of Triantin Yutuga.
No.
Door of the yourself.
Yes. No. So the thing is then with there are people that do these divinations using dice. Then you, depending upon how the dice fall out, then you make a reading on whatever it is that you're trying to do the divination for. Of course, there are people whose divinations are not very accurate, some whose are accurate. So what one can do is, like for example, Palanamo retreat might take about 10 days, and you will have your the dice there, and you would during that time, if you observe certain signs, like for example smoke and so on, there are certain signs you might that you would see, then you would know that your own divination practice, throwing the dice, is reliable. Then from then on, you'd be able to do divinations, and you would be able to get reliable responses. Any other question? Wow. Here, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. This is not related to the topic. Is that okay?
Just ask.
In the extensive medicine Buddha Puja, after the end part of each of the Buddha's the section where you're making prayers to each Buddha, there's the part about being reborn in that specific Buddha.
Oh yeah.
Land, and then
you don't know which one to be born in.
Well, there's a part that says, and then you I forget the exact terminology, but it sounded like be able to enter in. I think it's to enter into all the Pure Land, all the Buddha fields, and so may be able to enter all the Buddha fields. Does that mean through that connection you could choose which Pure Land, even an unrelated Pure Land?
상이 멜라기 저거든 존나나 아니 지단다 디 상이 멜라 레레라 아니 디 죽우데 아니 디 당신한테 깨와쇼스 잡지 시기도 할라 아니 나도 직통민도 코란스나 아니 당신 상말라도 토바쇼스 잡지 시기에서 레시기도 레벨라 상기기 신 상말라 탐제라데 디 조투바쇼스 또 깨와쇼스는 더 간시데 코딘데 칠라기도 근데 여러벨라 다 간단한데 디 던다 카르스나 소소데 당신 카울레 메베게는데 델레데 깨웨 뉴바다부치 데 샤기도게스 깨기도게스
지단전에 상게 체드이야르바
no
라랑이 때 히레리야르바
no
만음 되게 라랑이 때 히레리 깨베 만음 깨기야르바
no
만음 지기야르 디네 지네 주두기 또지 상계기 신 탐제 주도는 것에 디네 야르바 디네 야르 아니 단데디 상계 체드 디라랑 센데블레 디제 아니 센데블레 쳐바체 야라디바체 센데 네 디제 네 디슈데 만데레 아니 시베마다도 네 상계 라랑 신디게 모아치게르바 라랑 신디 게야디 모아치게
no well it is true that with these seven medicine Buddhas. They each have their own pure land, and when you're doing that medicine Buddha practice, then you do make prayers and dedications to be able to be born in their pure lands. And besides that, as far as going to different pure lands, it is possible that one, maybe not so much in terms of like being born in all of those pure lands, but having the ability to go to all of the other enlightened beings' pure lands.
In the second section on training the mind in bodhicitta, it talks about ultimate and relative bodhicitta, and in the ultimate bodhicitta it says that think all phenomena are like a dream.
Yeah.
And in relative it says treating mind alternatively with giving and taking. Should we try to do these two meditations simultaneously or at different points?
Okay. Rinpoche did dundungin dunnibadi kabla ani de kasada sim kasada janjisem nila de lojong de kalaptin de toa da bena de dundambe de janjisem de lojong kabla ani kasa chunam tamji milam tabu das tabuchi sungdwa ane chunam milam tabu sam ane kunzobe janjisem kabla dene nuju kingnan entaji takanda tonlingi college 시기도 tonlingi college 도라 어레레 tonlin이부 빠마장 숭두가라 제산데 디니 밀란다보 다세 밀란다보 삼세 디당 아니 tonlin데 빠마장 세디 데 두직두 제거를 베스
말이 가가 그거죠.
no
예. 전담 제주 비생 공부 전반이 동의 공부를 봐. 동의 공 남샤기네 그 동반이 공 제대로 기네 그 수기마다고 내주 공. 일단 냠샤지 난산이 기네 그마다도 띵지 공이야 봐. 기 공부를 봐. 다지 군도 제주 비생 제지 동네 제말 거네 다 군주 제주 비생 장기야를 봐. 다지 소디 데리 잠바 등이지 지게 잠바 등이지 야부 주는 이신 제주 비생 슈다르디 잠바 등이지 슈다르디 그게 잠바 등이지 슈다고 있는 제주 비생디 디디기 슈다고 띵사고 있는 게 어디서 동네니 주거네 다지 제주 군주 제주 비생디 동네니 주거네 장거가
no. Yeah, it's not the idea isn't really to practice both of these two simultaneously. When it talks about seeing, think of all phenomena as like a dream, so this is talking about the ultimate bodhicitta. It means it's talking about meditating on emptiness. And so what you do there is during your meditation, you meditate on emptiness like space, and then outside of your meditation, you meditate on emptiness like an illusion. So seeing everything is like an illusion or like a dream. So then, with the taking and giving, that's part of the training in the conventional bodhicitta, the mind wanting to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And so the main thing there is you're meditating on love and compassion, because the stronger your love and compassion is, the stronger your bodhicitta will be. The strength of your bodhicitta will depend upon on the strength of your loving kindness and compassion. No, behind you there was somebody. Yes.
The second of the three general points, I don't think I understood it correctly. I think you said, don't make out like you're a high-level practitioner. As a mind training practitioner, you're going to want people to think you do not have a self-cherishing mind. So you might cut down a tree to show that the harmful harm you.
This, that might have been the way that I maybe I made a mistake if that's how you got it. So what Rinpoche said is you want people to actually you're not a mind training practitioner. You want people to think that you are, and that through your mind training practice you've got no self-cherishing mind, and so you do these things which usually a person would only do if they know that they can't be harmed. So people are going to think, oh, he or her must be free of their self-cherishing mind, because otherwise there's no way they would do that, because they would know that they're going to be harmed. Does that help?
It should be avoided, the whole thing.
So you're, you started with don't make out like you're a high-level practitioner.
Yeah.
So in other words, don't do these feats that would lead others to think, oh, he must be a high-level practitioner.
Not so much. Yeah, that maybe as well. But what Rinpoche actually said was, don't try to make out that you're free of self-cherishing, just so that you can get offerings and honor and so forth. That was how I explained it. Still doesn't make sense? So tell me what your question is, and then I'll ask it. If
Well, it's just that I understand don't make out like you're a high-level practitioner.
yeah.
Yes, that part I got.
Yeah.
The examples, I guess, I'm just kind of struggling with. So you would do this thing with the tree, cutting it down, or the earth, messing with the earth, to show other people like, hey, you couldn't do this if you were just an ordinary person. Obviously, I have no self-cherishing, or I wouldn't be able to do these things. And so what you're saying, I think, is that the reason you would do those acts is so that people would think that you don't have a self-cherishing mind, and then they would give you offerings?
That's right. That's right. 가서 담보디 지든 숨는데 지든 숨데 직송도 지든 숨나 그래 아래 어디 담보디라 지든 숨는데 딱둘랍 디 담보디 아니 라
로중 켈한답니까?
어디 담보디 말해 지나 카나다데 인규 랑기 더블라 아니데 닝kur 지주나 삼네 디데 신동디디 제잔디 디 체거레 숨바인 디 마체 지교 말레스 숨바인 가스 모잠발라 지카즈다 오르다 나데 롭종 체베 똑기 아니데 랑체진 빵사레스 나디 랑체진기 셈 매장 니디 체투기도 캔서야인데 체고레스 갑자기 거기서래 뒷말아
말이 가시기 라진디 때코기 코 라진디 매돈도 제버봐 제버리 미슈지기 코 코라라 닝구르제 로중 제녀지 임바지 하고나 아니 코라는 닝구르지 녀지 윤구리 예삼 아니 데 로중 냠내 지녀 임바지 하고야 돼 근데 저거래서는 신이도 수파제 대체는 라진디 매나 신이 제는 그 지기야 말아 제사 디제 상이도 수제 딘디 고 제베인 지하지 그런 디 지하지 그런 게 로종이 냠내 지기 버디 시야기 치 딘디 제베인은 그 디시에서는 코는 인구 윤구리서 지기야 말아 그 디디레디 그게 디 상대야 디시 제메리로
와 Yeah, so the point isn't that you should do that kind of activity, such as cutting down a tree where there are nagas living, to sort of like almost like to inspire people, because then they're going to know that you must be free of self-cherishing mind. Wow, by practicing the mind training, then you have no self-cherishing mind. Then nobody can harm you. It's not that. That wasn't the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is, actually, you're not free of self-cherishing mind. Actually, what you want, your whole motivation is to receive offerings and honor and so on. So you want the person to think that you have no self-cherishing mind. And how you do it is by cutting down trees and digging the earth where there are spirits and so on. because then what you hope is that the people are going to think, oh, this person is obviously free of self-cherishing mind, otherwise they wouldn't be so reckless. They must know that they're not going to be harmed because they don't have self-cherishing mind. And so then, thinking that you don't have self-cherishing mind, they're going to honor you and make offerings to you. That was the point.
Lojo chigi dondo chen ramen de jolam mendawa chebina ani lojo di yapu yung bar lojo nyamne chinge di lojo chigi yoga di mashi ba cheni ngwe te chunju cheni lojo nyamne chebina lojo nyamne di sabu che ani lojo nyamne di ngwe ji yung gu bari di ma chebe che nga lochung nyamne chigi samda cheni jolam de yanda manda tingi tevina sheda da mithu beche ni bodu de rang do de ni yuna do do su de mithu beche kon lochung nyamne chigi charan tu chigi amare cheni jolam de ni chigi tene rang nyo lochung nyamne ti yapu yung me bari ngwe te chunju lochung nyamne ti chigi ne
Even if you did have a good, strong mind training practice, even if the motivation wasn't particularly to sort of like make people give you offerings and so on, to act in such a way that people are going to know you're practicing mind training, and somehow you're superior to them, means that the second one isn't going well. Actually, it's the fourth one, isn't it? Change your aspirations, but preserve your old manner. If you lead your life in such a way that people don't really know that you're practicing mind training, your mind training practice is going to be much more. Is going to be much deeper. It's going to be much stronger. If you sort of advertise it and let people know that you're practicing mind training, then your mind training practice actually won't go very well. Oh. So maybe we'll stop there then. Okay. Zaje begin joshi me to tram re